Justice is one of the 7 virtues and has an esoteric meaning of balance. With this virtue, humankind is able to strive towards a more equitable society. Hello, I'm Michael J. Auger, creator of the Allcento Tarot, and today let's take a closer look at the 8th card of the Tarot's major arcana. The balancing scales of justice date back to ancient Egypt. The sun god Ra set the cosmic and social orders in place, and his daughter, Maat, made sure this order was maintained. It's her ostrich feather that the god of the underworld, Anubis, uses to weigh against the hearts of the souls of the dead. If the heart was lighter than the ostrich feather, the soul would go on to paradise, but if not, it would be eaten by monsters. Maat was the keeper of ethics, and her archetype evolved into the modern personification of justice as a woman holding balancing scales in one hand and a sharp double-edged sword in the other. In modern depictions, justice is blindfolded. However, in the days that the tarot was first created, the general attitude was that eyes must be wide open to ensure equity. And so, justice is depicted in the Visconti-Sforza tarot without blindfold, looking straight forward at the viewer. After she determines what is fair, it's the knight depicted behind her, riding a white horse, who makes sure her decisions are carried out, ensuring that there's justice for all. Sometimes the justice archetype is depicted with a companion crane by her side. This hints at a myth that a crane will hold a stone in its claw while standing watch on one leg, ever vigilant, and should it fall asleep, it would drop the stone and wake itself up. In some of the early depictions of this card, like the block-printed Rosenwald tarot, justice is seen with a polygonal halo, which indicates her as an allegorical figure. This polygonal halo can also be seen in the so-called Charles VI deck, a hand-painted tarot that was mistakenly thought to have been commissioned by King Charles VI of France in 1392, but has been since determined by historians to have been created in Italy in the mid-15th century. The famous Greek philosopher Plato treated justice as a comprehensive virtue, so that almost every issue he regarded as ethical can be classified under the notion of justice. In the Republic, justice is characterized as a natural balance of the parts of the soul, and injustice as an imbalance. The previous arcana, the Chariot, symbolized the parts of the soul and the struggle of will needed to control these parts in unison. This arcana represents justice made possible by the balance of these different parts. Early woodblock versions of this card also emphasize the idea of balance. The Marseille-style justice holds traditional balancing scales. However, if you look closely, the scales sometimes appear slightly tipped by an elbow or a knee, and the sword she holds is not always perfectly straight, hinting that life isn't always fair, and victory at times depends on pleasing the court. The sword is held higher than the scales, which also may suggest fairness in trial is less important than the order imposed by the might of law. However, she wears what some have suggested is a moron's collar, which applies increased pressure around the neck should she think of pronouncing an unjust sentence. The front of her crown is decorated with a circled dot, which is a symbol used by the Pythagoreans to represent the first metaphysical being, the monad, or the absolute. This implies the heavenly aspect of divine order. And also of note is the unusual curved shape in the background that has been interpreted as a rotunda, or a draped curtain, or even as angel wings. In some texts, like the Saprofino, the angel wings interpretation is fully embraced. However, justice is actually considered a cardinal virtue, as opposed to a theological virtue. The Italian priest and philosopher, Thomas Aquinas, believed that the 3 theological or heavenly virtues could only be practiced with divine grace, while the 4 cardinal or human virtues could be formed through habitual practice. This means justice as a human virtue is within reach, even without divine grace, and possible if we do the work. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn associated this arcana with the Hebrew letter lamed, meaning ox goad. A goad is a long stick with a pointed end used as a cattle prod to guide livestock, usually oxen that are pulling a plow or a cart. The idea being that justice provides the way to guide and direct the soul of the spiritual seeker so that evolution to a higher state is possible. The Golden Dawn also assigned the astrological correspondence of Libra to this card. And so that it would keep to the natural order of the zodiac, they swapped Justice, usually card 8, with Strength, card 11. This numbering change can be seen in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. I personally believe that the zodiac should be represented in the tarot, but I feel they deserve to be their own cards, as seen in decks like the Visconti, and not piggybacked onto others. And so when I see this card pop up in a deck that follows this alternate numbering, in my mind I can't help but imagine the number has been reversed back to the number 8. From a numerological view, the number 8 is linked with the idea of balance, and Justice, holding balancing scales, is the perfect card to represent this concept. Aleister Crowley also preferred the original numbering, and so this arcana is numbered 8 in the Thoth deck that he created with the help of Lady Frida Harris. However, Crowley also wanted to keep the Golden Dawn astrological correspondences, so inspired by his holy guardian angel, he did some loopy mental gymnastics to make it all work. For those interested, I have a different video that explains that in greater detail. However, despite returning to the original numbering, Crowley did make some other adjustments. He had complicated feelings regarding Christianity, and so he changed the titles and meanings of the cards that represented the virtues so that they fit into his unique form of spirituality that he called Thelema. Justice is renamed Adjustment. Instead of a focus on decisions made by humankind balancing facts with empathy, we instead have a card that represents karmic order. Disharmony has already been cut away, and we're left with pure symmetry governed by the natural laws of the universe, held together by a delicate feathered curtain and chains that are dramatically affected by even the slightest disturbance. The alpha and omega symbols are included to indicate the beginning and ending of possibilities that are open to us. We must choose wisely and follow our true will. The figure in this card symbolizes the subconscious and implies a process of raising our consciousness to express our higher self through adjustment. We're able to follow our true will or life purpose when our lower self, the princess, dies to become our higher self, the queen. A diamond shape can be overlaid on this card, which symbolizes both the purity of Kether and also links to the idea of a hymen that is broken when the princess becomes the queen mother. Crowley loved adding lots of sexual symbolism. In the Allcento tarot, we return to a classic depiction of Lady Justice. A polygonal halo signifies her as one of the 7 virtues. She also wears a crown that resembles a lotus flower, symbolizing purity and truth, with a circled dot indicating her thoughts are ordered and linked with the divine. She passively sits in a rotunda between a pair of symmetrical columns. Above her, the ceiling is decorated with the image of a knight who represents the enforcement of law. On the knight's shield is an ostrich egg, a link to ancient ideas of justice, but with a modern spin. To her side, a butterfly can be seen. Every action has a reaction, and it is said that the wings of a butterfly on one side of the world can cause a tsunami on the other. Any imbalance can endure only temporarily before a karmic price must be paid. An 8-sided star created from a pair of overlapped squares is the main symbol of balance that is emphasized in this card. Lady Justice also holds a traditional balancing scales and double-sided sword of reason that manifests reality. By overcoming prejudice, we can discern what is fair, balanced, and just. She embodies the Hermetic principle of mentalism, stating that all is mind, the universe is mental. Decorating the hilt of her sword is the alchemical symbol of vitriol. Vitriol is a form of sulfuric acid and is a core medium of alteration. A supplement to Rouland's A Lexicon of Alchemy states that green vitriol is a symbol of the philosopher's crude matter, while red vitriol is the perfect sulfur at the red stage of the opus. Symbolically, it's considered the secret fire that guides us towards illumination. Vitriol is an acronym for a Latin phrase that translates as, "Visit the interior of the earth, and by rectifying what you find there, you will discover the hidden stone." What this means is that if we look within ourselves and do the work to find balance, we will be rewarded with spiritual enlightenment. And if you found this enlightening, please let me know in the comments and be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, brightest blessings on your spiritual journey.